All right. Hello. Hi, Casey and Caitlin. Nice to see you. Welcome, everybody who's watching. I'm Julie Wolk, and I'm really excited to do this interview today with Casey and Caitlin of Bold Woman Brands. So in a minute, we're going to dive into the juicy topic of social media shoulds. But first, I just want to say these two multi-talented, compassionate powerhouses are part of the coaching team in Nourished, which is my group coaching program that is enrolling now. And the short version of what Nourished is that it is designed for all you hardworking, high achieving coaches, consultants, and healers who want to transform a business that drains you into a business that sustains you. And we do this inside the program by helping you slow down, set solid boundaries, and then develop powerful offers that are rooted deeply in your gifts. So in addition to helping folks design a streamlined, simplified, scalable strategy for their businesses and help you, figure out a profit plan, that's my favorite thing to do. I have found over the years that, and especially now, given what's happening in the world, I've found that there are two places where my clients pretty regularly get stuck. And one of them is around like limiting beliefs. And this is often around money stuff, right? Like, who am I to charge for my work? Or what if people won't pay for it? Or what if I fail? And this topic I discuss with Brianna from who's our financial bliss mentor, also part of the program. And you can watch the other video in the series with her when we go into like all the money stuff. It's a really awesome conversation. But today we're talking about the other one, the other place where people get stuck, which is on implementation, and specifically in crafting the right resonant message, writing the copy that attracts your ideal clients, actually designing a website, the visual branding part of your business, and then the actual marketing strategy to fill your programs, right? To have a big impact, to earn the money you want to earn. So I'm really excited to say that we have Bold Women Brands as like our in-house branding and marketing team. And that's who I have here today. And the thing that I'm actually most excited about working with these two and their team is that Bold Women Brands is really, really different from your typical branding and marketing agency. So like while these two both bring like the traditional marketing experience, they also have a really powerful analysis of the blatant harm that's caused by mainstream media and marketing and branding, and how that the harm that causes up to us both like individually and also culturally. And they provide a different approach, like one that's healing and liberatory and really inspiring. So and not to mention they're brilliant at messaging and do really beautiful design work. So I'm going to turn it over to them for a quick intro, and then we will dive into our topic.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Julie. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Casey, and Caitlin can introduce herself after, but I'll just give a little lead in. That was perfect. I don't know if there's too much else to say. Obviously, more can unfold about BWB, but yeah, we are a holistic marketing and creative agency. Both Caitlin and I are rooted back in the East Coast now, right around New York. However, we were on the West Coast for a long time, so we've lived both lifestyles and find ourselves here, and our team is across the US. So we have website designers, and we have graphic designers, and we have screen printers, and we have herbalists, and we have additional coaches, and we have a number of alternative health and wellness practitioners involved in the business with us as well, spread out all over the place. So as Julie was saying, our big focus is really on building brands. We call ourselves an agency, but because we really focus on personal agency in our work, not because we're a traditional agency. So we really want to build brands rooted in that. And then the other kind of core goal around what we do in supporting the women that we work with is weaving identity work back in with brand identity work. So oftentimes we hear things like, I need a brand identity process, or I need a graphic identity. but what's been left out is the identity component. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that in depth today. So that's our main focus. And, as Julie was saying, my main background does come from about a little over a decade in corporate marketing and communications, as well as coming from the visual arts and critical theory and a deeper understanding of perception and cultural issues, as well as intersectional feminism. So all that went into the pot and stirred up and took the soil of BWB. And then Caitlin and I came together in 2019. And I guess I'll leave it there, Caitlin, if you want to hop in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here too. Julie, thank you for having us and this opportunity to talk about all the things we're going to talk about today. So Casey and I officially came together in BWB in 2019, but our story actually starts a couple years before that, where we were both working at a global communications marketing advertising agency. And, my background also, like Casey, I studied communication and language and many other things, market research. I could go on about all the different things that I picked up and put into my special sauce. But really where I wanted to talk a little bit about is just this why, having come from this big corporate setting and worked on, big major corporate clients and was asked to, help come up with social media strategy for them and craft social media content for them. Really, to me, it was pretty eye-opening because I got to see a lot of the pros and cons of how social media is used, why it's used, and how oftentimes a lot of big brands, the personality and the messages really get lost in the execution. And so it really caused me to take a big step back, especially when I decided to leave an agency background and start my own company and then eventually partner with Casey, of this unpacking of the why behind social media and how we use it. And so I thought that was something that often got left out. And so I know we're here to talk today about that a bit more, but I'm just excited to be working in a setting now where we're not taking a formulaic approach to how we do marketing or social media. We're really trying to look at all the components and all the lenses of which you may use different channels in a way that feels authentic to you and your business.
Awesome. Great. So tell us about the shoulds and your perspective on this.
Oh boy. I know we're keeping it short. I'll keep it short, I promise, because we have a lot of perspective on this. But as Caitlin was saying, like one of the big things is we often say with BWB is we don't manufacture brands, we midwife them. And that is at the core of everything that we believe in, how we move through creative process, how we build marketing and brand strategies, and how we execute them and implement them. And so one core component of that is kind of like our framework is called creating from the center. And within that framework is really this deep rooted promise that we will not do any shoulds. We're 100% should free. So in getting, the concept of creating from the center is that essentially like we have all these conditionings built up. We have all of these other components around us as we're thinking about doing things like putting our brand out there, marketing, being visible, sharing our voice, growing our businesses. And what happens with a lot of that is a lot of shoulds get kicked up in there. Some coming from internalized beliefs we hold, some coming from what institutionally, ideologically has been upheld in our cultures and in our systems, and far beyond that. So we want to really take a look at all of those shoulds and do our best to unpack them and really be with them in an intentional, conscious way, so that we can get to the center of what the authentic, and almost like authentic isn't quite the word for it, but yeah, essentially like what that core, true, authentic view is, and then build out from there. So the first part is obviously in the shoulds territory. And, as it relates to so many of the things we're going to talk about today with social media, one thing we really find is that there's an onslaught of shoulds coming at us at all times, especially, we work primarily with female identifying people, and there's a lot of shoulds, particularly in those of us that are identified as female or socialized female. So we really want to be with a lot of that and take a conscious look of how that intersects in all aspects. But today we're going to talk about social media, and really think about how I should look, how I should be, how I should act, who I should post for, etc.
Right. Right. 'Cause all that stuff is that's the stuff that's really harmful, right? And again, individually and on society, when we're performing up to these standards, that's and not being in our true selves, that hurts inside. It doesn't feel good. And then it doesn't and then, I mean, maybe you can speak to this, the impact that has on our culture too. I mean, we all know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of the Instagram,
Yes.
crap that the everybody looking perfect all the time and my life is perfect, right? But maybe you can speak a little bit more to the impacts you see.
Yeah. Well, one thing that kind of ties that together with something you were just saying, Casey, a word that comes to mind for me is expression, and how we express ourselves through our brands. And Julie talking about the harm and the performance nature of a lot of what is expected, if you will, or a should on social media. And so I think we were talking about this at a different time, Julie, of how one of our clients came to us one day and said, I went to this beautiful place and I took out my camera because the first thing I thought about was, how am I going to position myself to take a photo that then I share on social media? Which she then came to us and said, I need help. I need to figure out where I fit within this, because she did still want to share something of her experience on social media, because it did fit well within her brand and what she was, working on. But when it became this driving thought of, how am I going to use this experience and what should I post on social media, it then became this twist of, where is my choice here and where is the expectation that I've put on myself? And so that's something that we've been taking a deep look at with most of our clients and also with our own business. And I wanted to, we'll tell a little story about how we got there and how it kind of got kicked up with in our own business. But really, I think there's this process that we want to take our clients through, where they feel at choice with how they're expressing themselves, whether that's on social media or not. And ultimately how it's helping them reach their business goals, because I think there's this expectation that in order to make money, you have to do or should do all these specific things. And when we start working with a client, we immediately compost that idea, because we believe that there are many ways to be successful and make money. And yes, there are some great ways to use all the different channels, such as social media, but they're not so interlocked that you must do certain things to be successful.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I love how, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to add one thing too, because Julie, you were asking about what's the impact of not questioning the should, or maybe even not having an awareness around it and reenacting them and kind of allowing them to run the show, whether consciously or unconsciously. And again, I think, I always say this, it deeply, truly, I'm not trying to be dramatic, it breaks my heart, because I know that on a soul level, on a psyche level, what happens if we, or I'll use what happens for me personally when I allow those shoulds to just be in place of who I really am. But then also when that happens on a large scale and is modeled and repeated again and again, and again, if it's not questioned, this is where the identity work comes in, of where is that should coming from? Is it coming from patriarchy? Is it coming from whiteness? Is it coming from so many different layers that these kinds of shoulds are coming from? So if we don't unpack that, we are then repeating it out loud and modeling it over and over and over and over and over again. And so then being complicit in what we're upholding. And so that to me is where not only on the individual level, what it does to perform ourselves over and over again, but then on that mass level, when you want to start to think about your impact as a business, as a brand, as an individual out there, that's where it gets to me like that sense of urgency, where it's like this has to happen before or within the relationship of building your visibility and amplifying your message and amplifying your business. Otherwise, the integrity piece may be in question.
Totally. And it's also where the possibility for changes, right? Like, so if we are, if everybody decided to like actually, get clear and either post in an authentic way, or maybe just get off social media, depending on what people come to in this process, right? Then there's going to be these ripples that can shift out and actually change the culture itself. Because we all know that marketing has a huge, like it's very visual. It's like it influences us so much. And then with the advent of social media, that's like on steroids, right? So it has a huge impact on how we live, how we think about ourselves, how we feel. I mean, yeah. So it's huge. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think what's happened is that for some reason, it's like these things and these opportunities to take a critical look, and healing is not just for social media, but it's a particularly ripe place to take a look at it. And again, I think for so many of us culturally, it's just become this like, we have to expectation. This is what it is, business of what it is. I have to be on social media and it has to look like this. And that is what we want to really be in an active practice of composting and questioning and pushing a little bit further on the dialogue on.
Totally. There was something you said that I want to pick up on. You said you don't have to be on social media to be successful. So I want you to talk about that. You can tell the story and about that one too.
I love that. Well, so this is a real thing that happened. Casey and I have a couple of different social media accounts, including Instagram for the business for BWB. And one day Casey sent me this post and it said, "You don't have to be on social media to be successful." And she said, "What do you think about posting this?" And at first I was like, we can't post that. We help people with social media strategy. We help people, bring their vision to life on social media. So if we say that, is that, going to then come back to impact us and our business? Because we're not saying like, no to social media, don't do it. We're saying all the things that we've been talking about with really taking this critical look and, getting rid of the shoulds and all those pieces, plus many others, which, we can get into. But truly it was this moment where we paused, we took a time out, and we had, I think that week that Casey sent that to me, we maybe talked for 3+ hours on different calls of like all these different avenues with social media. And really we're trying to understand like, what is our point of view? What is our position? What is our, relationship to social media? Do we uphold all the platforms that we participate in, meaning agree with them? Are we feeling that if we post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, are those in our own integrity as a business and as an individual? And so it truly like opened up this huge Pandora's box of figuring out for our own selves and our own company how we want to show up or not show up. And we're still in that process. And again, I think Casey, you maybe said this earlier, but our whole goal is to make sure whatever we may recommend to a client or ourselves is linked directly to what our overarching business goals are. So really looking at defining what success means for us, and is it in alignment with our belief system and what we want to offer and what we want to perpetuate or not perpetuate. So I'll pause there and kick it to Casey to add anything to that. But it's just very interesting because we, I think, have backgrounds in marketing and communications at, big companies, small companies, all the, everything in between. But it was something that we were like, wow, we need to really even start to do this for ourselves.
Yeah. I'm the one that stirred the pot on this one a little bit, I think, but in a good way. I think, obviously, and what it's brought us down into our business, and then also the kind of counsel we can provide for clients. But where that really started for me of like wanting to put the proclamation of like, you do not have to be on social media to be successful, is that we understand, that we are counselors, strategic counselors that people seek advice for. And a lot of times would come of like, so many shoulds, what should I do? How should I post? Should it look like this? Can I sound like this? Like so many pieces. And it really just, the kind of perpetuation of it made me want to like break it all apart and just be like, you do not have to be on social media to be successful. This is a myth. Like the way in which all of we're seeing was being mirrored to us and our clients, our own feeling with it was like, that somehow social media hooked in our value and our worth. If we weren't on social media, who were we at all? Like this obsession with our followers and our engagement and like these over kind of ballooning of emphasis on all of those different pieces as it relates to like how we were doing in our business. It really just got to the point where I was so overwhelmed. I was like, I don't believe that. And we also say, we know so many clients and people who have incredibly successful businesses who are not on social media, and that is fine. That's fine, and that's where we really, and that's where we really got to this place, or I got to that place where I said to Caitlin, I have to post this because I do stand by it. It is a bold declaration for us on a business, and it calls us forward into this larger unpacking that we're wanting to do with this.
Right. And I think the key thing is like, not okay, so you don't have to be on social media to have a successful business. Like let's clarify that. There are so many other ways to do it. But what I think is so cool about the process that you take people through is that there's a way that we feel all this ick about social media, right? And some of it's we need to, in order to if we are going to choose to post on social media, we have to back up and do like the internal work to unpack what that resistance is about, or the fear, or the ick, whatever the ick feeling is for you. You might have some kind of ick feeling, maybe you love social media, but a lot of people have some kind of ick feeling about it, right? And so in order to be able to then, so you could just decide not to get off of it, right? But you could also decide to like look a little bit deeper into where is that resistance coming from, right? And there, maybe you can share, I don't know if you have an example of that, or but like how we could actually shift that and then change our relationship to social media and then post in a way that actually does feel good, both on a personal level, like not being on Facebook all the time, but also in a like authentic to your business kind of brand way that also feels in integrity.
Yeah.
I'll say a couple of things, and then I'm sure Caitlin, you want to say something to that too. But it's really, I think, about, we love social media too. So I just want to say that it's not to say that we had all these like bad feelings about it, but what you hit on, Julie, that's at the core of it is about the relationship you have to it, with it. And so we never wanted to be bypassing or brushing aside all these things, because also, as you named, and as we believe very strongly, is like social media, all communications tools, branding, visibility, all these pieces. But as it relates to social media, it has enormous potential for healing, growth, liberation, reclaiming of ourselves, like community. Like there is all this good, beautiful opportunity that's available to us. And so in some of the resistance that might come up, or in the addictions that come up to scrolling and to getting your followers and obsessively looking at things and things like that, it starts to kind of own and control us in a way that, is that the kind of relationship that you want to be in, or your business wants to be in with social media? So I'll stop and have Caitlin build off, but that's like a very core kind of, you're getting right to the heart of it with that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And just in the spirit of sharing a couple of examples, we've worked with clients who have goals. Like one of our clients has a goal that she wanted to write a book, and it, when she came to us, she had no social media presence, not even a LinkedIn profile. And she said, I really want to get picked up by a publisher to publish this book. And what the publishers ask, and again, this is somewhat problematic, but again, the world that we're living in, they were like, we're not going to pick up an author unless they have an established presence online, because it's really expensive and takes a lot of resources for them to bring on a new author. So, you know, flash forward, we've helped her establish a thought leadership platform that talks about her, you know, she's a psychiatrist. It's her specific craft, you know, a lot about mental health, raising children to be sex positive, all these sorts of things. And we've taken her from no presence to helping her establish a presence that's totally within her authenticity, and she's very proud of. It's something that, whether she was on Instagram Live or giving a talk at a major conference, she can stand behind all the things that she's sharing, which I think is a very important note to make about what she's talking about. But again, she's doing this all within her authenticity. She doesn't feel like she has to post on social media every day, but when she has a new blog post or a new journal entry or a new video that she's created, she shares it on social media. So that's a good example, I think, of using it for connection, growth, to prove to the publishers that she has something great to share with the world and with, you know, parents, families, children, and, you know, and beyond.
Right. And did she come in like a little bit skeptical about using it, or you were saying she didn't have any presence, so I imagine she like was at least a newbie.
Mm-hmm. I think it was probably a little bit of skepticism, and then a lot of like, I don't understand what all this even is. So the educational piece around, what does it mean to follow someone? What does it mean to direct message someone? Like all the basics. But yeah, I think there was also like a, why do I want to spend so much time on this? Like, I'm writing a book, I'm seeing patients, like, why do I have to do this?
Right.
And again, I think that this example, I didn't even mean to make it about this, but since it's come up, I think it's really tough, because in a lot of instances, and I'm sure a lot of, Julie, your clients, and I know our clients could relate to this, there's this like expectation from the world. And again, that sort of goes in hand with the shoulds, but had she not chosen to establish all of her channels and do all that thought leadership work, she maybe wouldn't have gotten the book deal. So it kind of is that perpetuating cycle of, you know, am I going to do this because I want to realize my dream, or am I going to self-publish a book, which is, you know, would have been a bigger thing.
Right. Right. And the thing that also strikes me with this is there's a lot of like instant kind of, here's your social media post for the month, just fill in this template kind of stuff out there. Or even if you like hire a social media person, it's not, that's like, it feels like kind of, it's just so surface that like that for anybody that has some kind of, you know, wiggle in their relationship to social media, that's not going to do it, right? Like you have to step back a bit and really get clear on what you want to have come through. And I don't think that like the instant stuff and the cheap stuff is like really going to bring you into this place of really clarifying what not just like authentic and like the like new like coachy, oh, be authentic, but like really deeply, what can you bring from your inside out into social media that feels good on every level for you?
Right.
So that just takes more work, and it takes being thoughtful, and you're not going to like find that in the templates and in the, you know, here's your 30 days of social media posts for free. Like I see that ad on Facebook, I'm like, what? Like, yeah. if I'm going to like just do that, you know? So I just really think like for each individual is going to have that, and it's worth spending the time, because social media can be so powerful, right? Like you were saying, there are really positive aspects to it. And if we can get good with it and use it in a way that's supportive, then awesome, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I would add to that too, because that's a great point that you just made around like all these like almost like gimmicky and like quick turnkey, like buy the templates, put in your logo, and then it's done. But I think that from the flip side, if I'm on Instagram and I see that, I can tell that it doesn't feel real. I can tell it's templated, forced. And so I think it's what we talk a lot about is putting yourself in the seat of your ideal client or customer and really thinking about how you can really show up for them in a way that feels good for them too. It's not just about like you pushing your message out, but it's also about, you know, having conversations and engaging with the people that you want to be working with. And again, we could go down a whole rabbit hole there, but I do think that there's a lot of those things, I believe, and we hear it from clients all the time, is like being marketed at them. And they're in this very vulnerable place of like, I want to grow my business. I want to realize my dreams. I want to grow and make money. And so they, you know, unless they come with that critical lens of like, what do I stand for? What is it in my integrity to actually be doing? These kind of gimmicks they're falling prey to them. Mm-hmm. And we always feel like our hearts are breaking when someone says, I just went to a conference, and then they tell us about all this like turnkey packaged, you know, kind of cookie cutter stuff that they're being fed for exorbitant amounts of money. And we're always like, no, you'd be so much better served like going through this process of, you know, unpacking the social media swamp and unpacking your shoulds and all the things that we're working with clients to do.
Totally. Which is not to say that you can't then come up with a system and and mechanize it and make it easier to do. Yeah. But like you got to do the deep work first, and then you can like kind of start putting it on autopilot where you're writing posts or you've got a method. Sure, it's not like you have to like go deep inside of yourself before you write each post forever. That's not what this is about. But it's about making it all easier in the long run. And I'll add to that too, which is that the extra, like the on top of this, right, we're talking about like marketing authentically, right? And one benefit obviously of marketing authentic is that it feels better for you. Another benefit is that it's better for society. And then of course the third benefit is like it's better for your business, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you're trying to use those cookie cutter templates and the programs that are like not paying attention to who you are as a human being, or kind of like asking you some questions but like not going very deep really, it's not you're not going to do them, or you're going to do them and they're going to come off as kind of fake. And ultimately when you have a marketing strategy that's authentic, you're going to do it. It's going to feel good. You're going to grow your business. It's better for you. It's better for your clients. It feels better for everybody, and you earn more money ultimately too. So it's like all of this is for a reason. It's not just like stew in your pot for a while and then maybe make a post. It's like, this is all in service of something bigger. And like with so many things in business, and this is like so key to what I teach folks, is like, we have to slow down and step back and be thoughtful and intentional about how we move forward. And if we don't take that time to strategize, to vision, to get aligned, to strategize, then we're going to move forward on our kind of like our busy day to day, just like doing things that are easy, or like here's the template, or I just got to keep going. But when we take the time to step back and do the deeper work and the strategy work, then what we end up producing is like more clear, more effective, more efficient, right? And we end up with like a better business overall that's also more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say two quick things to that, which one is, yes, more profitable and more, you know, revenue and all those good things that we're all looking for. But also, if really impact is your driver, that as business owners and as people who have brands that exist in the world, it is our absolute responsibility, because we're shaping culture, to be very, very thoughtful and intentional and aware of what we're doing at all times with that. So again, it's like, that's the impact piece that, again, that's as much of a driver for success, I think, I know for all of us on this, and I'm sure for so many of you watching this, which it's like, so that's why that part is essential. Without that, the other pieces don't happen, at least not in the ways that they could. And then the other last piece I want to say, or like challenge what you were saying a little bit, Julie, or like push it, is that yes, the deep work happens, and then you can mechanize some of these systems so it's not like this laborious depth process all the time. But actually that level, what we're trying to work with our clients to create is a level of being in relationship, like with your message and with your brand and with your business, that it is this constant cycle of evaluation, being in self-inquiry, identity work. Like it's not a one and done kind of deal. Like it's like, it does actually have to continue for the rest of our life.
Sure.
And that doesn't have to feel hard or time intensive. It just is a different way. It's like a mindset shift, a heart shift, like a whole kind of relationship shift that many people, I'm sure, watching this are already in, or are like leaning into a little bit further. But I do think that process and that cycle continues on and on.
Yeah, totally. That completely makes sense. We always have to revisit because we're constantly changing, morphing humans, and especially as like a conscious person in the world who wants to do the right thing, there's a constant checking back. Just like we're having a total like recalibration now. People are thinking much more deeply, especially white people, about like how are we running our businesses, right? Like there's always, and then there's the internal shifts that you do about like what becomes more important in your life, and the message evolves. It's all evolutionary and iterative, and it's all in motion, just like anything in nature.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Totally. Speaking of nature, actually, I don't know if we actually, I want you to bring in the swamp metaphor, because such I think is a good thing to close on, because the swamp and like what can come out of the swamp. And so
Perfect. Speaking of nature, Caitlin and I are both nature freaks, like Julie calls herself.
Yes, we are.
And, well, so when some of this was happening with our clients, and in actually we were running one of our group programs actually, and we were all engaged in this discussion together around social media and unpacking it together. And this is where the idea of the social media swamp emerged. And so that's affectionately how we kind of name a lot of this process and this unpacking that we do in the realms of social media. And how we started to look at it, like how swamp emerged, is that when we started to think about from an embodied place, from a physical place, and even how social media was making a lot of people feel, it felt murky. It felt complex. It felt kind of like sluggish and like filled with, yeah, like hot, and like, kind of had like all these feelings, like, and that's where swamp emerged. But then upon further, really sitting with that, because as soon as somebody said it, it was like, yeah, the swamp. And the beauty of the swamp, in so many metaphors and stories that we know, is that the swamp also produces, those muddy bottoms produce the beautiful lotuses, and they also produce lily pads, and they have rich, dynamic ecosystems that are vital to the overall well-being of ecology and our ecosystems. And there are these critical like transition zones overall in terms of things where like water and land and all these elements intersect. And so as we went further with the metaphor, we really have begun to build that out of actually the swamp being the perfect visual or container for how to talk about a lot of these things, and how to think about, if that is it, if, our business is nature and the social media is a swamp part of it, what do we want to grow out of it? What are the elements that need to go into it? What creates something healthy for the overall ecosystem of the
like
business?
What's your lotus that might bloom from this like murky social media swamp that like if you put your leg in it, you're just like, whoa, I can't get out.
Yeah, exactly. Many lotuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, I think we are just about out of time. Is there any last words before we wrap this up?
Don't get stuck in the swamp.
What was that?
Don't get stuck in the swamp.
Or it's like get stuck in the swamp, like feel the discomfort of being in the swamp, right? Like unpack what is all this uncomfortable, like this is like an action people can do, like what is it that feels so uncomfortable for me about that? Start to unpack that in yourselves, and like and perhaps you'll come to that place where you're like, you know what, I just don't want to engage on this. And great, there are other methods to grow your business, right? And you might decide like, I can make some peace with this and do this in a good way that feels authentic and good to me. So, and that's liberatory and culture changing and all the good things too. So yay, cool. We talk about this stuff a lot inside Nourish. This is what we're all about. And so, you know, we got a little taste here, but if this is the kind of work that you want to be doing in your business, I hope you join us, learn more about Nourished, and get in touch if you're interested. And yeah, thank you again, Casey and Caitlin, for taking the time today. And
Thank you.
thanks everyone for being here. Take care.